Have you ever casually shared something personal without thinking twice, only to realize later that you've just revealed too much? That uneasy feeling when you realize you trusted the wrong person or spoke at the wrong moment, it's a regret we've all experienced. It's frustrating, isn't it? You just wanted to celebrate, to connect, to be seen. But somehow, a harmless detail turned into a vulnerability. And the worst part is, you didn't even realize it until it was too late. You're not alone. Most of us, without knowing, leave traces of ourselves everywhere, online, offline, in casual conversations, making it easier for the wrong people to take advantage. But it doesn't have to be that way. You have more control than you think. And today, the timeless wisdom of Stoic philosophy can show you how to reclaim it. In this video, we'll uncover 5 powerful secrets you must keep to yourself if you truly want to protect your freedom, your peace, and even your life. You'll learn real strategies, grounded in psychology and ancient discipline, that will shield your value from a world that's always watching. Why do we overshare? Because deep down, we crave validation more than we crave safety. And as Epictetus once said, no man is free who is not master of himself. Mastery begins with knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. You are more precious than you realize. If you believe in building silent strength and protecting what truly matters, subscribe now and join a community that values wisdom over noise. Let's begin. Number 1. Do not share personal financial information. Have you ever noticed how natural it feels to share personal milestones? Getting a promotion, buying a new car, paying off debt, it almost seems expected to announce these moments publicly. Yet hidden beneath that excitement is a subtle, powerful risk most people completely overlook. It starts small. You might post a photo of your new car with the caption, "Finally upgraded after years of saving." Or maybe you casually mention in a group chat that you just closed on your first home. Sometimes it's as simple as bragging about finally being debt-free during a lunch conversation. While these celebrations feel harmless, what you're actually doing is sending out silent signals about your financial status. Signals that the wrong people are always listening for. The signs of oversharing financial information are often subtle. If you frequently post about expensive purchases, share updates about salary increases, bonuses, or financial milestones with people you barely know, or discuss investment wins in casual conversations, you are unknowingly painting a target on your back. Even seemingly innocent habits like flaunting luxury brands or talking openly about inheritance money can give opportunists exactly the information they need. It's not just about the words you say, it's about the lifestyle you portray and the assumptions others make from it. In Stoic philosophy, true security lies in what we control, and one thing we can always control is our speech. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. Financial achievements, while meaningful, are external validations. By announcing them, we place an unnecessary focus on external approval, inviting attention we do not need. A Stoic mind asks, is this announcement necessary, or is it vanity disguised as connection? True confidence doesn't crave recognition. It moves silently, building strength within. The harm of oversharing financial information cannot be understated. Beyond the obvious risks like burglary or fraud, the deeper danger lies in how people perceive you once they know your financial standing. Jealousy, resentment, manipulation, all grow quietly in the hearts of those who feel entitled to your success. Someone you thought was a friend could use your openness to judge, exploit, or undermine you. Worse yet, you may attract professional scammers who specialize in social engineering, manipulating victims not by hacking, but by studying and exploiting their personal disclosures. And let's not forget the psychological impact. By publicly tying your self-worth to financial milestones, you unconsciously set traps for your own mind. What happens when the milestones slow down? When the wins are fewer? Do you still feel valid? A Stoic mind understands that validation should never be outsourced, especially not to the fickle applause of the crowd. So, how do we protect ourselves without living in fear? The answer lies in strategic restraint. First, be extremely selective about who you share financial updates with. Your victories deserve celebration, but they deserve it in safe, private circles, among people who have consistently proven their loyalty and integrity. Resist the urge to broadcast success online or in large gatherings. If you must discuss financial matters, speak in generalities rather than specifics. Instead of, "I just got a $10,000 raise," say, "I'm grateful for growth opportunities this year." Second, practice delayed sharing. Give yourself time to emotionally detach from the excitement before deciding whether a piece of information even needs to be shared at all. Most often, you'll find that once the emotional high fades, the need to announce fades too. In this quiet space, wisdom grows. Third, redefine your idea of celebration. Instead of seeking validation through likes, comments, or impressed reactions, seek internal satisfaction. Treat financial achievements like private victories, personal moments of gratitude that deepen your self-respect, not your public image. A friend of mine, Sarah, a 32-year-old software engineer, recently landed a major job promotion and a hefty bonus. Ecstatic, she immediately posted about it on her social media, complete with photos of the new luxury watch she bought to commemorate the event. What she didn't realize was that her public profile was viewable to a wide network of acquaintances, including people she barely remembered adding years ago. Within 2 weeks, Sarah experienced an unsettling series of events: strange phishing emails pretending to be from her bank, a suspicious opportunity message from an old classmate asking for an investment, and even a burglary attempt at her apartment while she was away on a weekend trip. The burglars didn't break the door. They picked the lock, suggesting they knew the place was worth targeting. If Sarah had approached her success with a quieter kind of pride, the kind Stoic wisdom teaches us, she might have allowed herself the satisfaction of achievement without turning it into a public announcement. A celebration doesn't lose its meaning because it's kept private. It often gains more weight, more dignity. By resisting the impulse to broadcast her milestone, she would have shielded herself from unnecessary exposure and secured not just her belongings, but her peace of mind. The next time you feel the urge to announce a financial win, pause. Ask yourself, am I sharing this for genuine connection, or am I seeking external validation? Who needs to know this, and who benefits from it? If this information were weaponized against me, would it still be worth sharing? When you shift your mindset in this way, you don't just protect your money, you protect your peace, your privacy, and your sovereignty over your own life. Because at the end of the day, true wealth isn't measured by what you own. It's measured by what you protect and what you have the wisdom to keep hidden. Number 2, do not disclose location and travel schedule. We live in a world where sharing has become second nature. It's almost automatic to post a photo at the airport with a "See you soon Paris" caption, or to check in at a trendy cafe as soon as you arrive. Some people even document every step of their journey, boarding the plane, arriving at the hotel, showing off the view from their room, all in real time. What feels like simple, harmless connection can, in truth, expose you more than you realize. There are many signs that someone is oversharing their location. If you frequently post travel plans before or during your trips, tag real-time locations on social media, or share upcoming vacations with casual acquaintances, you are effectively handing over a roadmap to your whereabouts. Some people even fall into subtler traps, like discussing their daily running route, weekly gym schedule, or favorite late-night hangout spots online without considering who might be watching. Even seemingly private conversations at work or school can slip into dangerous territory when you casually mention, "I'll be out of town next week," or "Nobody's home while I'm gone." These patterns, repeated often enough, paint a detailed map for anyone paying close attention. The consequences of oversharing your location or travel schedule can be far more serious than people think. Most obviously, if someone knows your home is vacant, it becomes an easy target for burglary. But the risks don't stop at theft. If a stalker, obsessed acquaintance, or ill-intentioned stranger tracks your movements, you open the door to personal threats, assault, harassment, or worse. It's chilling to realize that the same information you share to feel connected can also be weaponized against you. Studies show that a significant number of modern burglaries are planned using information found on social media. When you make your absence known, you don't just make your possessions vulnerable, you make yourself vulnerable too. Stoic philosophy offers a powerful lens to see this problem more clearly. The Stoics teach us that true strength comes from controlling what we can and releasing attachment to what we cannot. Oversharing stems from a desire for validation, the wish to be seen, to be admired, to feel important. Yet, as Epictetus reminds us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. To live wisely, we must learn to enjoy experiences without broadcasting them. A Stoic finds satisfaction in the moment itself, not in the applause it might earn. Protecting your privacy isn't fear, it's wisdom. It's choosing sovereignty over your life rather than gambling it away for fleeting recognition. One of my old college classmates, Emily, who now works as a marketing consultant in Chicago, learned this lesson the hard way. A passionate traveler, she loved documenting her adventures online. When she won a free trip to Italy through her company's rewards program, she shared every step: airport selfies, cappuccinos in Rome, sunsets in Florence. Her excitement was genuine, and her followers cheered her on with likes and heart emojis. What Emily didn't realize was that an old acquaintance, someone she hadn't spoken to in years, but who still followed her online, was carefully watching. Knowing she was out of the country and seeing pictures confirming she wasn't due back anytime soon, this person broke into her home. They didn't just steal valuables, they rifled through her private spaces, her closet, her journals, her memories, leaving her feeling deeply violated even after the locks were changed. The answer to protecting yourself lies in building what the Stoics would call disciplined discretion. First, resist the urge to post real-time updates. It's tempting to share the beautiful sunset or the bustling street market, but delay posting until you've safely returned. In doing so, you still get to relive the memory without compromising your safety. Second, reconsider location tagging entirely. Does the world really need to know where you are right now? Or can the memory be just as sweet and even more sacred if kept private for a while? Third, share travel plans only with trusted friends and family who genuinely need to know, not acquaintances or public followers. If you must discuss an upcoming trip, keep it vague or frame it in the past tense after you've returned. A daily mental practice can reinforce this habit. Before posting anything online, pause and ask yourself, who might see this? What assumptions could they make? What risks am I inviting? This small act of self-inquiry builds a wall of awareness between your experiences and the outside world, a wall that doesn't diminish your life, but protects its most precious moments. Reflecting back on Emily's story, if she had embraced this quiet strength, her experience could have been very different. She might have captured every breathtaking moment of her Italian adventure, saved her stories privately, and only shared her highlights after returning safely home. In doing so, she would have enjoyed the same memories, the same joy, but without sacrificing her security or peace of mind. At the heart of this lesson is a simple but profound truth. Our lives become stronger, not weaker, when we hold some parts back from public view. Not every joy needs an audience. Not every experience requires validation. Sometimes the sweetest memories are those that belong solely to you. Before you share your next travel update, ask yourself, am I sharing this because I need to, or because I crave to be seen? Will this post strengthen my peace, or make me a little more exposed? Your adventures deserve to be remembered, but they also deserve to be protected. If you found this reminder helpful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're building a community where strength and wisdom come before noise. And if you've ever had a moment where oversharing put you or someone you know at risk, share your story in the comments below. Your experience could be the very thing that protects someone else tomorrow. Number 3. Do not disclose information about personal security systems. It's human nature to feel proud when we take significant steps toward ensuring our safety. Maybe you've recently upgraded your home security system, added motion-activated lights, installed a high-tech doorbell camera, or even acquired a sophisticated biometric lock. Naturally, you might feel tempted to share these advancements, perhaps posting about it on social media, casually mentioning it in conversations at work, or even revealing specifics in neighborhood groups. While the intention is usually innocent, either pride in your proactive measures or a desire to appear responsible, These moments of sharing inadvertently disclose vital information to those who might misuse it. You might recognize this behavior by observing a few common signs, either in yourself or in those around you. For example, you or your neighbors might post photos of a newly installed security keypad or proudly describe in detail the features of a home alarm system on social media. Maybe you join discussions in local forums or group chats, openly discussing the brand of your new security cameras or their placement around your property. Other times, people downplay their security measures, casually mentioning that they've never needed an alarm or locks, believing they live in a safe neighborhood. Both approaches, revealing too much detail or inadvertently advertising a lack of protection, pose a genuine security risk. The hidden dangers of these seemingly innocent conversations can be profound. By detailing the exact nature of your security system, you effectively hand criminals a blueprint for how to circumvent your safeguards. For instance, a burglar now knows precisely what devices need disabling or bypassing to gain entry. And when you openly admit to not having security measures at all, you position yourself as an easy target, one that's almost too inviting to ignore. But the consequences extend beyond mere burglary. Once someone knows the specifics of your home protection, there's potential for physical danger, stalking, blackmail, or other deeply unsettling invasions of your privacy. Even subtler is the psychological impact of knowing you've unintentionally compromised your security. If something were to happen, whether an intrusion, theft, or worse, you might wrestle with feelings of guilt or regret, knowing you gave away the information willingly, albeit unknowingly. Such feelings can erode your trust in people and in yourself, creating anxiety that can linger long after locks are changed and alarms reset. Stoic philosophy offers a clear perspective here, guiding us toward thoughtful discretion. The Stoics believed deeply in self-control, not just in actions, but especially in speech. Marcus Aurelius famously said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Applying this to our modern context, the message is clear. The less you reveal about your protective measures, the greater your control over your personal security becomes. True strength, Stoicism teaches us, lies not in external defenses that can be displayed publicly, but in quiet internal discipline. The discipline to say less, to guard more wisely, and to protect your home and loved ones without fanfare. Let me share a situation from personal experience that highlights this very lesson. A neighbor of mine, Jonathan, who manages a local hardware store, recently upgraded his home security. Excited about the advanced technology he'd invested in, complete with multiple smart cameras, motion sensors, and even remote access controls, Jonathan enthusiastically shared his setup online, providing details about the devices, their exact locations, and even posting images of his security panel on a local Facebook group. His intent was genuine. He hoped to inspire neighbors to upgrade their own security. However, within a few weeks, Jonathan's house experienced a targeted break-in attempt. Luckily, his neighbor spotted suspicious activity and alerted authorities in time. Still, Jonathan was deeply unsettled upon realizing the burglars had targeted specific devices, clearly having known their locations from his detailed posts. He grappled with regret, understanding that his openness had inadvertently compromised the very security he was so proud of. To avoid falling into this trap yourself, there are simple but crucial practices you can adopt. First, always practice intentional vagueness when discussing security measures. If someone asks about your home protection, responses such as, "We're well covered," or "We have basic security measures in place" suffice. You don't owe anyone a detailed breakdown of your security setup, certainly not in a public forum. Next, maintain strict discretion about your security vulnerabilities. If your home lacks particular safeguards, resist mentioning this publicly. It may feel harmless or humorous to acknowledge the absence of alarms or locks, but it's actually a dangerous admission. Rather than publicly highlighting weaknesses, take quiet and immediate action to strengthen your home's protection privately and confidentially. Consider also a periodic security audit, something the Stoics would appreciate for its practicality and thoroughness. Every few months, evaluate your home security setup and online presence. Review your social media posts, public discussions, and even casual conversations. Ask yourself whether you're unintentionally revealing critical information. Delete posts that are overly detailed and adopt stricter privacy settings online. This disciplined review not only reduces risk, but also reinforces Stoic self-awareness, strengthening your mental resolve and personal discipline. Returning to Jonathan's story, had he followed this more discreet and Stoic-inspired approach, he might have simply kept his security upgrades quietly to himself. Instead of detailing them publicly, he could have chosen a subtle, indirect route, perhaps gently suggesting neighbors take their own security seriously without revealing specifics. His home would have remained safer, and he could have avoided the distressing experience altogether. Ultimately, what we learn from Jonathan's experience, and from Stoicism itself, is that true security and strength lie in quiet prudence. It's tempting to share everything in our socially connected age, yet wisdom tells us to remain discerning, particularly when it involves something as sensitive as personal safety. Let your security measures be a private source of confidence, not a public declaration. By doing so, you reinforce the integrity of your defenses, protect your loved ones, and preserve your peace of mind. If you found value in this gentle reminder to practice thoughtful discretion, I warmly invite you to subscribe and join our growing community dedicated to wise, purposeful living. And as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you or anyone you know ever inadvertently revealed sensitive security details? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your story may offer valuable insight and protection for someone else. Number 4. Don't share personal or family weaknesses. In the quest for connection, it's easy to slip into a habit that seems harmless at first, but carries deep, hidden costs. Sharing too much about your personal or family vulnerabilities. Whether it's confiding struggles with health, revealing emotional wounds, or describing strained relationships within your family, these disclosures can unintentionally open doors that you never intended to open. There are common signs that someone has a tendency to overshare personal or family weaknesses. You might notice yourself speaking openly about a chronic health condition during casual conversations with acquaintances, or discussing a family member's mental health struggles in a workplace setting. Maybe you mention your own emotional challenges, battles with anxiety, past trauma, or financial hardship, to people you don't know well. In today's digital age, these confessions often bleed into public spaces. Social media posts describing personal pain, TikTok videos sharing raw moments of vulnerability, or comments in online forums that reveal more than you would ever share face-to-face. While these acts may feel cathartic or even brave in the moment, they plant seeds of exposure that can be harvested by the wrong individuals. The consequences of revealing personal or family vulnerabilities are often not immediate, which makes them even more dangerous. Instead, the harm tends to build quietly over time. When you expose your own weak points, manipulators see an opportunity. A coworker who knows you are struggling with depression might exploit that knowledge to outmaneuver you professionally. An acquaintance aware of your family member's legal troubles could use that information to undermine your social credibility. Even worse, predators, emotional or otherwise, are skilled at identifying soft spots and weaving their way into your life under the guise of compassion, only to later use your admissions against you. Vulnerabilities that were shared in moments of emotional openness can quickly be twisted into weapons of manipulation, control, or betrayal. Beyond external threats, there is an internal cost as well. Every time you expose a deeply personal hardship without due discernment, you dilute the sacredness of your own resilience. You erode the boundary between your private world and the public arena, making it harder to trust, harder to feel safe, harder to maintain the quiet strength that Stoicism teaches us to cultivate. The Stoic perspective offers a powerful remedy for this modern urge to overshare. The ancient Stoics placed immense value on inner stability and personal sovereignty. Epictetus taught that, keep your own secret hidden. Reveal it only if necessary and only to those who deserve to hear it. In other words, strength lies not in broadcasting your hardships, but in mastering them silently. To be Stoic is to understand that your struggles, your pain, your family's trials, these are not badges for public validation. They are personal challenges meant to be endured, understood, and grown from internally, not worn openly for others to see and potentially exploit. A real-world example comes to mind from someone I knew during my early professional years. David, a young attorney, often spoke freely about his mother's ongoing battle with a serious illness. Initially, it seemed to bring sympathy and support from his peers. But as time passed, some colleagues began to treat him as fragile or unreliable, questioning his ability to handle high-pressure cases. Worse yet, one coworker, sensing David's emotional exhaustion, subtly edged him out of career opportunities, framing it as being for his own good. David hadn't just shared his family's hardship, he had unknowingly allowed it to shape how others perceived his capabilities. Situations like David's underscore why discretion is not just a form of protection, but an essential part of maintaining dignity and self-respect. When you voluntarily hand others the blueprint of your emotional and familial struggles, you cede power over how you are seen and treated. You lose a vital form of agency that, once lost, is difficult to reclaim. Fortunately, a few deliberate strategies can help guard against this kind of unintended exposure. First, practice conscious boundaries in conversation. Develop a simple mental filter. Ask yourself, is this person's relationship with me deep enough, trustworthy enough, to warrant sharing this part of my life? If the answer is anything less than a confident yes, keep the discussion general. Replace specifics with broad statements. Instead of saying, my brother is struggling with addiction, say, everyone faces challenges. It communicates humanity without disclosing private pain. Second, treat your vulnerabilities as sacred, not secret. Sacredness doesn't mean shame. It means honoring the depth and difficulty of your personal and family experiences by choosing when, how, and with whom they are shared. This mindset shift preserves your agency while still allowing authentic connection with those truly worthy of your trust. Third, embrace emotional restraint. Not to suppress your feelings, but to govern their expression wisely. Not every moment of difficulty needs an audience. Not every hardship needs a testimonial. Channel your struggles into personal growth, self-improvement, and resilience, rather than seeking external validation through exposure. Another useful habit is to be particularly cautious in moments of emotional intensity. Anger, sadness, or even elation can cloud judgment and loosen your boundaries. Train yourself, like a Stoic would, to pause and reflect before speaking during these moments. Ask, am I sharing for healing, or am I reaching for validation or sympathy? If it's the latter, hold your tongue and seek a more private, grounded way to process your emotions. In a world that often confuses openness with strength, it's important to remember that true strength doesn't seek applause. It moves quietly, endures quietly, and protects what is precious. Keeping your personal and family vulnerabilities within a circle of true trust not only shields you from external exploitation, but also fortifies your own internal fortress, your mind, your dignity, your peace. When you guard your own story with discernment, you claim ownership over it. You refuse to let your life be shaped by the perceptions of those who haven't earned the right to know it. And in doing so, you walk a quieter, stronger, freer path, the very path the Stoics would have honored. Number 5. Do not share information that could be used for identity theft. In today's highly interconnected digital world, sharing personal details often feels effortless, almost second nature. We casually reveal information that once would have remained private, posting childhood memories, family details, or nostalgic anecdotes on social media. However, what we rarely consider is how these innocent disclosures, such as the name of our first pet, our high school's mascot, or the street we grew up on, can become tools for identity thieves, quietly gathering the clues needed to compromise our digital and financial identities. Recognizing this subtle habit is not always easy, but it begins by noticing how often you find yourself or others responding openly to quizzes, nostalgic challenges, or seemingly harmless about-me games online. Perhaps you've participated in social media posts asking for fun facts. What's your mother's maiden name? Or what was your first car? Maybe you've even openly shared your birth date, hometown, or old addresses publicly on platforms visible to acquaintances and strangers alike. It might feel friendly and conversational at the moment, But each piece of information shared online can be collected methodically by someone with malicious intentions. Additionally, many people unintentionally reveal too much through casual conversation. You might find yourself discussing your family lineage, sharing detailed stories about your childhood, or even casually mentioning specific details about past residences at gatherings or workplace chats. What seems like innocent nostalgia or personal sharing is actually building a detailed profile of sensitive information, quietly handed out to anyone who might be paying attention. The consequences of oversharing these seemingly minor details can be both severe and deeply unsettling. Identity theft is not just a financial inconvenience, it's a profound violation of your personal security and sense of self. Once compromised, victims often find themselves dealing with a cascading nightmare: frozen bank accounts, fraudulent credit cards, unauthorized loans, or even a stolen social security number. Each one of these situations requires hours of stressful, costly, and sometimes humiliating effort to rectify. Beyond immediate financial damage, identity theft can severely impact your reputation. Criminals may use your identity to commit crimes or fraudulent acts, leaving you to face accusations, legal issues, or damaged credit scores. Imagine the feeling of discovering your name attached to criminal activity you've never committed, all because your personal details were easily accessed and exploited. Moreover, the psychological trauma of identity theft can be enduring. Victims often experience anxiety, loss of trust, and a lasting sense of vulnerability. Every time they log on to social media or make a financial transaction, they relive the stress and fear that their information is still floating in unknown hands. This erosion of confidence and trust in digital interactions can severely impact your emotional health and overall quality of life. Stoicism provides insightful guidance to help prevent such vulnerabilities. According to Stoic philosophy, disciplined control over oneself and one's actions is central to a balanced and peaceful life. Epictetus advises, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." Applied to the digital age, this Stoic principle emphasizes maintaining meticulous control over what information we share and understanding clearly the distinction between what's essential and what's unnecessary. To share only what's necessary and consciously withhold non-essential personal details is an act of disciplined discretion, a virtue deeply admired by the Stoics. Consider the story of Jessica, an elementary school teacher who loved engaging with friends and family on social media. Jessica often participated in nostalgic games online, answering questions publicly like, "What was your first pet's name? Buddy, where did you grow up? Cedar Grove." Or, "What was your first car? A silver Toyota Corolla." These posts felt entirely harmless to her, fun ways to reminisce and connect with others. Unfortunately, these same answers matched common security questions Jessica had chosen for her bank accounts, email, and other online profiles. Months after casually posting these details, Jessica received a series of alarming notifications. Password resets she didn't initiate, suspicious transactions in online shopping accounts, and ultimately, a sudden freeze on her bank account due to fraudulent activity. Her personal data had been pieced together by someone who'd quietly collected her answers from seemingly innocent social media posts. Experiences like Jessica's underscore the critical need for vigilance and intentional restraint. To safeguard against identity theft, you must build conscious habits. Firstly, scrutinize what you share online carefully. Before posting or responding publicly, ask yourself, could this information help someone else gain unauthorized access to my accounts? If the answer is yes, or even maybe, it's wiser to refrain entirely. Additionally, implement a robust practice of using deliberately incorrect answers for security questions. Choose answers unrelated to your actual life, known only to you. For example, if the question is about your mother's maiden name, consider providing a completely fictional answer that you alone can recall. This strategy creates an added layer of protection against those who seek to exploit publicly available personal details. Moreover, regularly audit your digital footprint. Periodically revisit old social media posts, deleting anything that might inadvertently reveal sensitive information. Tighten your privacy settings and limit the visibility of your posts to a close circle of trusted friends and family. This practice reduces your exposure significantly ensuring fewer opportunities for your information to fall into the wrong hands. Cultivating Stoic discipline around information sharing also means embracing delayed gratification. Often the urge to share personal details online arises from immediate emotional impulses, a desire to connect, reminisce, or impress. Instead of acting impulsively, pause and reflect. Ask yourself if the emotional benefit of sharing outweighs the risk of exposure. Typically, you'll find that the fleeting satisfaction of sharing doesn't justify compromising your long-term safety. To bolster your efforts further, maintain vigilant awareness of scams and phishing attempts. Criminals often use social engineering, manipulative psychological tactics, by presenting personalized information they've found online to gain your trust. If a message, email, or phone call references personal details you've shared publicly, pause immediately. Never rush to respond or click any link that appears suspicious, no matter how convincing it seems. In a digital age that pushes us toward constant sharing and openness, it's essential to reclaim Stoic mastery over your information. Remember that your identity, your most personal and fundamental asset, is precious, deserving of vigilant and thoughtful protection. Sharing less isn't isolation. It's empowered discretion. By exercising such careful judgment, you preserve not only your financial security, but also your personal dignity, peace of mind, and freedom from anxiety. These are the quiet, lasting rewards of disciplined discretion that Stoicism champions. In protecting your personal details today, you safeguard your identity, your finances, and your emotional well-being for tomorrow. Protecting your life starts with protecting what you share. Today, we uncovered 5 powerful secrets about money, location, security, family, and identity that you must guard carefully. Remember, silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. If you found these lessons valuable, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear if you faced any situations where keeping quiet made all the difference. And stay tuned. Part 2 is coming soon with even deeper secrets that most people overlook, but that you can master. See you there.